Hello, and we continue our journey in the who's who of watchmaking by talking about one of my favorite brands, but it's much more than a brand, it's a luxury group with a very special mindset and attitude. It wouldn't have been too long ago that the mere notion of Hermes being talked about as a luxury watchmaker would have been met with a quizzical expression. This Parisian house, which was originally founded in 1837 by Thierry Hermes as a harness workshop, made fashion watches, albeit very high quality ones that were defined by the house's sartorial codes and equine history, such as its double tour Cape Cod or the stirrup inspired Arceau, rather than by any desire to challenge the likes of Rolex or Patek Philippe. It is a narrative that tends to gloss over the fact that Hermes actually started making watches back in 1928, though a more romantic take on its history would suggest earlier. According to a story told by Guillaume de Seine, sixth generation family member and executive vice president of Hermes International, the first Hermes wristwatch was made for his grandmother back in 1912. Her father fashioned her a strap to stop her pocket watch from constantly falling out of her pocket. So fast forward to 1928, and the watches on sale in the Hermes store were a little bit more considered. They were a collection of chronographs and part of a collaboration with Universal Genève, a brand it continued to sell until the 1950s. Hermes also had a partnership with Jaeger-LeCoultre with documentation that suggests Hermes sold the brand as far back as the early 1900s, as well as collaborating with it on co-branded watches. There was always an interest in luxury watches, just not the capacity to produce them, and it wasn't until 1978 when Jean-Louis Dumas took over from his father, Robert Dumas, that Hermes started to make watches seriously, establishing it La Montre Hermes in Biel, Switzerland. Initially, the watches were quartz in order to capitalize on the brand's burgeoning reputation in Japan. But as taste changed, particularly in Asia, Hermes realized that in order for its watches to be taken seriously, it needed to kick things up a gear. In 2003, Hermes launched its dressage watch designed by Henri Dorigny, who had created everything from scarves to plates for the brand. So the lines of the case were said to have been inspired by the stirrup strap shackle of a saddle, but that wasn't the most interesting thing about it. More notable was that the dressage contained a movement created by the Sando family-owned Vaucher, part of the Parmigiani group, yet another who's who coming your way soon. Well, this was the moment Hermes made its first step into the world of proper watchmaking. Prior to this, its collections were beautifully made, especially when it came to the inherent leather know-how that was used to make the straps. However, only a handful of them were automatics, which Hermes sourced to ETA. So the dressage was the start of this new phase in Hermes watchmaking history, and by 2006, Hermes acquired a 25% stake in Vaucher, which allowed it to launch its first in-house movement in 2008. So this movement was called the Caliber H1. It was exclusive to Hermes and created for its Clipper H1 watch. Although the Vaucher deal was its first watch acquisition, it was not a move that was entirely out of step with Hermes' established business model, one governed by a desire to invest in quality craftsmanship. Back in 1976, Hermes entered into an agreement with a bootmaker, the famous English John Lobb, to make ready-to-wear shoes under the John Lobb name. And in 1999, it bought a 35% stake in the Jean-Paul Gaultier fashion house. Since then, it has entered into collaboration with or made percentage acquisition of significant players in this ultra-luxury world, from taking a 39.5% stake in specialist textile weaver Perrin & Fils to most recently 2016's acquiring minority stake in Parisian footwear brand Pierre Hardy. It has also been taking off items from its watch shopping list, taking a 32% in casemaker Joseph Erard Holding in 2011 and completely buying Swiss dial maker Natteber in 2012. So the reason for these stakeholders and acquisition was revealed at Basel World in 2015 when Laurent Dordet, the recently appointed CEO of La Montre Hermes and a family member, unveiled the Slim d'Hermes. It was the first watch to have been produced by this Hermes newly vertically integrated watchmaking business. It was designed by Philippe Delotal, who had been creative director at Hermes since 2009 and who previously worked with the creative team at Patek Philippe, and contained the new extra slim H1950 movement, the third exclusive caliber made for the brand by Vaucher. So to industry watchers, this must have seemed like a strange move despite group revenue growing from 3.75 billion in 2013 to 4.12 billion in 2014, while watch revenue had fallen 11% from 167 million in 2013 to $248 million in 2014. So now was not the time to invest in an entirely new watch line. However, Hermes is merely playing the long game. Its strategy has always been quality first. It's a brand that hasn't opted for mass production or substantial outsourcing. Its emphasis has been on creating products that are unique, exclusive, and in which the hand of the master craftsman can be seen. You only have to look at its pièces uniques watches that each year showcase some unique métiers d'art. So, for instance, back in 2014, it collaborated with French glass artisans Les Cristalleries de Saint-Louis to create the beautiful Arceau Millefiori, which had a dial decorated with thousands of tiny glass flowers. And we made a fabulous video report about it at the time, and please check it out. It's really interesting and fascinating.